everywhere. Fruits and herrings, dykes and ferries. Tell me where it's empty. Tax the rich, feed the poor, till there are rich no more.
I was saying chemicals in plastic change the way boys play. So apparently there are chemicals used in plastics that are feminising the brains of baby boys.
And it's plastics in...
Plastics in things that are used to soften plastics in household items like plastic furniture, shoes, PVC flooring and shower curtains.
And the stuff that food comes in as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's affecting the baby's growth in the...
sperm counts in men,
too much estrogen, I suppose. So it's saying that boys have are less wanting to play with cars and guns and diggers, but more feminising the way they want to.
Is getting around in big 2-litre plastic bottles these days. That's a lot of Coke and a lot of smiles.
Ten easy-go plastic bottles weigh less than one glass bottle.
Nursing pillows, car seats, high chairs, they may all contain a chemical linked to cancer.
There's a new study out warning that 80% of baby products may contain this chemical. Sanjay Gupta joins us from Atlanta. You know, we talk about this all the time. You have 3 little girls, 3 little boys, 2 kids. And we always worry, are the products that we're using, putting on them safe?
Yeah, and one of the things that we've been researching this for a long time, as you mentioned, is we're surrounded by chemicals all the time, about 80,000 chemicals, and a very small number of them have been tested. So the answer to the question is, as Christine said before, potentially toxic chemicals, is we just don't know the truth about some of these chemicals. We don't know the cause and effect relationship that people are really looking for. But you're absolutely right. It's been this balance for some time when it comes to flame retardants in particular. They want to find good flame retardants for obvious reasons, and part of that involves using some of these chemicals. So in this particular study, they found that out of about 100 products surveyed, 80 of them had some of these flame retardants in them, and one of these flame retardants in particular, called TDCPP, that's been studied. It was banned back in the 70s, or at least removed from children's pajamas back in the 1970s, and it's back now because people use it as a good flame retardant with real concerns about potential effects on your DNA, potential effects causing cancer. So, children are being exposed to more of these chemicals than ever before, again, because of the risks and benefits. You want to get some of the benefits of flame retardants, but the risk potentially of these chemicals.
In fact, diabetes is still the most common reason for kidney failure in the developed world. It's the most common reason for blindness and for non-traumatic amputations. If you have diabetes, you have 2 to 4 times higher risk of heart disease and stroke. So this is a hard disease to live with. It is not only a disease for the Western or for the developed world, it is a global pandemic. Actually, 80% of all cases with diabetes are right now in the developing world, where the resources are obviously less.
This past month saw individual 27 with cardiovascular pain and blockage. And we see it in 90-year-olds.
As a cardiologist, Dr. Edward Palank warns heart disease can strike anyone at any stage of life, no matter how active they are.
Just because I'm 40 and I'm playing tennis and I'm active doesn't mean I can't have a cardiovascular problem.
It is autoimmune, which means that the immune system of the person attacks the very cells that produce insulin. So there is a complete insulin deficiency when the person is diagnosed, and you will need insulin for the rest of your lives. Type 2 diabetes is the more common disease, which is in 90% of the cases. And there, it's often diagnosed in elderly people and in people who are somewhat overweight. So what does the world do about this disease? Well, the doctors...
While heart disease is often thought of as an older person's problem, Dr. Palank says young people need to be especially on guard.
There's a lot of denial. Not going to happen to me. People are still smoking. You know, we're seeing the incidence in women of a higher incidence of heart disease in women. We also know there's a higher incidence over the past 20 years of women smoking, starting younger, longer periods of time.
Smoking is one of the leading causes of heart disease, followed by obesity, high blood pressure, and diabetes.
CPP, that's been studied. It was banned back in the 70s, or at least removed from children's pajamas back in the 1970s. And it's back now because people use it as a good flame retardant with real concerns about potential effects on your DNA, potential effects causing cancer. So, you know, children are being exposed to more of these chemicals than ever before, again, because of the risks and benefits. You want to get some of the benefits of flame retardants, but the risk potentially of these chemicals.
You know, and Sanjay, our lives have changed so much from the 70s, so now we are surrounded by consumer products. Our kids are sitting on I mean, you know, maybe there's testing for the exposure for one part of that, but they're being surrounded by it by so many different ways to be exposed. Why are kids so susceptible?
Well, you know, part of it is that there are just a lot more chemicals. A lot of them are not tested, and kids are being born even pre-polluted. This is something that we found in the documentary as well. Umbilical cord blood, Christine, to your point, before a child is even born, has up to 200 of these chemicals in that blood. So they're getting exposed more than ever before. They are not just small adults, children. Don't think of them that way, but they're more susceptible because they metabolize a lot of these chemicals more quickly. Their organs are still developing, so they're more susceptible to these chemicals. And obviously, they're going to have a much longer impact. If you've been exposed to these chemicals later in life, the impact will be less.
And as we know, perception creates reality. And this is what's seen now in the diabetes industry. And when I talk about diabetes industry, it's both the caring industry as well as the manufacturing industry. So what we're seeing here is that the number of patents generated each year coming down. Money raised is going down. New companies in this space are less and less, and there are fewer diabetes doctors. For the companies in this space, the cost for drug approval is increasing and the time from discovery to market increasing. And therefore, the diabetes industry is hurting. So what are we going to do about this? Well, in my opinion, it's really up to us, the patients. We need to take responsibility and we need to start acting. We need to be less of a victim and be innovators and teachers.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
We need a different economic model that will allow us to meet the basic needs of every human on the planet, and that will be focused not on growth per se, but on maximizing human well-being.
We have energy technologies that can power our civilization, but how do we get it and implement it at the scale we need at a price that people around the world can afford?
If we're able to do something to transform cities, to make them more efficient, then the impact can be huge.
We can use asset tracking, we can use IT, we can use 3D printing to decouple growth from the resource constraints we have.
The question of adding quality to quantity, it's really about a diverse, safe, healthy, and just world with clean air, clean water, clean energy.
And get involved. That means that we need to help doctors. We need to be telling doctors what it's like living with this disease, why compliance is so low, and we need to start force amplifying. There are not enough doctors to take care of all the people with diabetes. Therefore, we can, as patients, be peer-to-peer mentoring and help other patients overcome some of the hurdles.
Together we're fighting to preserve our fragile planet from irreversible damage and devastation of unthinkable proportions.
The prediction of 5 million jobs lost by 2020 to technology is serious, but the main question is, how will we define work? How will we share the will?
How can you have a doctor that really knows a lot about data? How can you have a biologist that knows about medicine?
We have to create a space that enables people to think freely, to think divergent thoughts, to think creative thoughts.
We really need new education
we need training.
We're working with a World in Motion and First Robotics, trying to encourage the students from 3rd grade all the way up through the end of high school to pursue science, math, and different technologies.
It's this ability of digital technology to change outcomes, to truly empower people that can create a more equitable growth.
Fourth Industrial Revolution has the potential to make inequalities visible and to make them less acceptable in the future.
I was the first person in the world to be able to voluntarily move my legs while stepping in a robot. The cure will be possible.
When it comes to the healthcare industry, we should not just be waiting for new solutions that may be presented to us, but we need to be seen as resources. We are the evangelist, we are the consumer. We are the client. We need to be putting pressure on the healthcare industry so that better products are coming out and products more amenable to people like us. We can also get involved in regulatory approaches and reimbursement to really enable products to get to market and not just be in the pipelines. Supporters, here I include parents, relatives, friends, but also people who have no connection to diabetes. It's our obligation to speak to them and to educate them so that the perception does not continue to create a reality that is flawed. Entrepreneurs, this is a favorite topic of mine because I do believe that the patients are the ones that can best identify needs, and therefore when we have a need, we can create solutions.
It's all about how do you invent and reinvent yourself and invent and reinvent the contribution you want to make to society.
It entails someone who's willing to actually move forward and to move with the interests of the people. But that takes a person who is able to really listen and understand.
A new report links chemicals and plastics to health problems like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, even infertility. Now, we don't know why for sure, but the idea is that these chemicals are disrupting your body's hormones. Just about everyone on Earth has been exposed to these chemicals. So what can you do? You can check the label. You may see plastics marked BPA-free, which is great, but they may be using a replacement chemical that's just as bad. And the label may not list all the chemicals to watch for: BPA, BPS, and phthalates.
Every person on this slide is an individual who is an entrepreneur who's also a person with diabetes. And they've created a product or an entire company. And this, I think, is a really good way for patients to, again, not be victims, but actually benefit from the fact that they have the disease because they can create even more innovative products and be committed to the space. So what does this all look like? How do we put it together? And especially, how do we create future wealth? Well, I think the diabetes pandemic we've shown is here. It's causing human suffering, it's impacting society. I used to think I was alone. I didn't share with anyone that I had this disease, but now I know there's so many like me. There's so many people out there. And what we need to do is to connect, we need to inspire each other so that we can impact the diabetes ecosystem. We can do this through being patient entrepreneurs, creating new products and solutions. If we are mentors or speakers, we can engage in series and improve societal understanding, or peer-to-peer mentoring and improve the compliance for other people taking the products. If we want to be involved with the healthcare industry to create more relevant products, then we can be engaged through patient panels or even directly with the healthcare companies. They are embracing that because we're the customer. Regulatory pathways and payers, we can be engaged in patient advocacy and really push that forward. As a patient public figure, I think we have an obligation to try to generate more interest for this space. And by having more interest, there will be more money and be more talent. So my call for action today is for everyone to get involved, to take responsibility, because together we can solve the diabetes problem.
The features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
We need a different economic model that will allow us to meet the basic needs of every human on the planet, and that will be focused not on growth per se, but on maximizing human well-being.
We have energy technologies that can power our civilization, but how how do we get it and implement it at the scale we need at a price that people around the world can afford?
If we're able to do something to transform cities, to make it more efficient, then the impact can be huge.
We can use asset tracking, we can use IT, we can use 3D printing to decouple growth from the resource constraints we have.
The question of adding quality to quantity, it's really about a diverse, safe, healthy, and just world with clean air, clean water, clean energy.
Together we are fighting to preserve our fragile climate from irreversible damage and devastation of unthinkable proportions.
The prediction of 5 million jobs lost by 2020 to technology is serious, but the main question is how will we define work? How will we share the wealth?
How can you have a doctor that really knows a lot about data? How can you have a biologist that knows about medicine?
We have to create a space that enables people to think freely, to think divergent thoughts, to think creative thoughts.
We really need new education, new training.
We're working with A World in Motion and First Robotics, trying to encourage the students from 3rd grade all the way up through the end of high school to pursue science, math, and different technologies.
It's this ability of digital technology to change outcomes, to truly empower people that can create a more equitable growth.
Fourth industrial revolution has the potential to make inequalities visible and to make them less acceptable in the future.
I was the first person in the world to be able to voluntarily move my legs while stepping in a robot. A cure will be possible if enough of the right people have the will to make it happen.
We're seeing this incredibly exciting convergence of genome editing, DNA sequencing. Governments have a very important role to play in enabling the safe and effective use of technologies.
We need to take responsibility at every level of society to adapt to these technological challenges which are redefining what it means to be completely embedded in this world.
Even though we have everyday problems we have to solve, we have to find a way to lay the foundations for the innovations of tomorrow.